So good morning. I'd like to call to order the August 6, 2024 work session of the Lower Southborough Township Board of Supervisors and ask everyone to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you. That brings us to our comment period on the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to be recognized? Excellent. Name and address for the record.
My name is Jessica Geyer. Thank you. I'm here to represent Living Hope Farm. We're at 461 Indian Creek Road in Harleysville. We recently started a partnership with Dave Smith and the Mount Charitable Foundation. We are a nonprofit community-supported agriculture farm, and part of our mission is to support families with food insecurity in our area. And Dave has generously donated $10,000 a year for the next 5 years in a representation of that cause. And we wanted to just kind of celebrate and announce that partnership here today.
That's terrific.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for all the work you guys do. How is how's farming this year with a little bit of a dry spell?
A little hot.
Yeah.
To irrigate, there's a
Quite close spot.
You're gonna go from one extreme to the other tonight.
but that's farming. Thank you.
Thank you. Great news, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to be recognized during the public comment period? All right, seeing none. Public Works Director, Mr. Jones.
Good morning, thank you. Just an update on the project, street light project, we're processing final payment finally. So our 1-year warranty begins now. So that project is winding down. The Roberts Road Bridge, removal and abandonment. The county is agreeable to our suggestion with moving the cul-de-sac / turnaround further away from the bridge, the old bridge, and closer to the barn, as the residents requested. So they're working on revised plans at this point to submit for our review and blessing. So that's moving forward. Bergen Mill Road Bridge.
When we get those plans, you'll circle back with the property owner.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, the Ingles, absolutely. I've been in touch with Mrs. Engel to let her know the status of the project.
Just remind me, what, after the turnaround area, is there gonna be any more road that we have to maintain beyond that?
No, it will be grass.
Okay, so they're gonna abandon the, are we gonna abandon the right of way, or is the right of way gonna stay?
I haven't thought that far ahead.
Okay.
But
I think we'd like to keep the right.
That's what I was thinking, I just to be clear on what's being done versus just removing
yeah, I
the
don't think it
road.
hurts anything to
Yeah,
keep them.
if we need a trail.
But that's
there or
what
something
grass on
sometime,
Monday.
yeah. Okay.
Prior to the draft, make some sign it, doesn't think, let me. Down. Thank you for your work.
Sure thing. Bergen Mill Road Bridge, there's some clearing work has started. But I haven't been informed of any pre-construction meeting or haven't been contacted by the contractor as of yet. So I'm gonna reach out to the county and see if I can find out what's going on with the time frame and stuff. So that is the Oak Drive right turn lane extension and the sidewalk. We're applying for a grant for that work, and I was able to make contact with the 2 property owners where we need right of way for the sidewalk. One owner is very supportive, the other's a little reluctant, so we're continuing discussions with them to try to get that secured. 2024 road program, Cape Seal works completed, the Nova chip process on Landis Road and Moyer Road scheduled to begin this Friday. Don't think that's going to happen with the weather, but some prep work's going to happen probably tomorrow. And we're out there preparations on Ware Road as well, so. Indian Creek Road, the paving. Spoke with the contractor and we feel it's probably best to wait until later in the year. When temperatures are cooler. So that we don't, with the amount of truck traffic, and the hot asphalt, it's really not conducive, especially going downhill. So I'm gonna push that off till probably September, October, most likely October at this point. Southwood Quarry. I've been in contact with the contractor that's doing the final remediation and closure work. It's Conti Federal. They're out of Orlando, Florida. Their headquarters, so they will be working in contract for EPA. Work is scheduled to begin in September. Scroll up, Mike, please. So there's right there, that plan. There's the work site. So the black portion of what's shown there, the roadway, that will be the actual closure. There are no residential properties on that section of roadway, fortunately, so access to properties will not be restricted, but it's just going to be a detour around.
So that where the black and orange line stuff it is that one house that goes down the hill. That's basically right at their drive, just past their driveway.
Right.
Okay.
So the established detour will be Morris Road to Upper Mainland and back to Quarry Road and vice versa. So they will be installing an advanced wardage signage, I think message boards, to alert everyone at least 2 weeks in advance of the closure. And this will be a long-term closure, as we've talked in the past. It's probably going to be over a year for this work to be completed. The amount of traffic and truck traffic that's going in isn't going to be significant, but it's going to be kind of a periodic and maybe 10 trucks a day kind of a thing. So all the truck traffic will use Main Street, Quarry Road to the site and then back out that way. Occasionally there may be a tractor trailer that has to use Upper Mainland Road, and I warned them that there's a section that's pretty narrow there that, but for occasional use, it shouldn't be that big of an issue. You want to go to the next?
I think transportation services has, there's at least 2 families that live along there with
Yes.
buses.
Yeah, I
Okay.
reached out to them last week and I asked the contractor to do the same and then to keep them in the loop as far as the timing as we move forward, and that they're fully aware. The other file, please, Mike. The site plan. This is the overall site plan. So access will be through the existing driveway. They will have 3 construction office trailers that will be on the site side of the roadway. They may approach on the roadway a little bit.
That seems excessive.
Yeah, big ones for EPA.
Everybody gets their own trail.
Yeah, exactly. And then common space. So, and then their own trailers. So, there will be lights installed, because there will be an occasion for when they're doing deep trenching for security reasons. They will be pointed down and pointed towards the site. So hopefully that doesn't become an issue. EPA is also, we've reached out to them about, they had talked about scheduling a community outreach meeting. And we're working on getting something scheduled. They wanted September or October, but I'd like to see that sooner than later. But that is the plan at this point.
What are the other color codes on that? The light blue and dark purple.
The light blue is the actual, I think it's the excavation remediation area. I'm sorry, stockpile.
Okay.
Emergency vehicles will be able to get through, may have to move a barricade to do so. But there will be, the freestanding barricades at either end of the actual construction site.
At least one lane through that road.
That was one of the issues that I had. They talked about having the trailers on the opposite side of the road and encroaching more on the roadway. I asked them to move them on the site side and push them back as far as they can so that there's very little impact on the existing roadway.
Doug, do you know if they're gonna use generators for those lights then, or are they gonna have, since it's a year process, they have any electricity or anything?
I'm pretty sure they're gonna be, yeah. Public utility powered.
I would think so for their, yeah, that would reduce the noise.
Yeah.
Or a pan, true.
Because when they get to those aspects of the project where they're doing the deep excavations, those lights will have to be on. Continuously or, during the nighttime hours. Non-daylight hours, so. Just for security purposes and safety purposes.
It's gonna look like a mini prison over at SCI, lights up the night.
I mean, fortunately, the site is surrounded by trees, so that should help. And if.
They keep
Lights
it down.
power, too.
Yeah, they
if
keep
they're
it down.
pointed down, So that's where that stands. Moving on, the Alpha Road Park or Alpha Park cameras, I'm waiting for the electrician to run the wiring for that. Hopefully that'll be done this week. And on the Public Works and Community Center facilities, working with CKS on a layout for a new location for the community center building. We're looking at possibility of replacing all the existing buildings that are in and around the pool area and incorporating them into a larger new facility. So I'm looking at the impacts and the feasibility of that. Just some department activities. Did some shoulder and swell work along Indian Creek Road. Some drainage improvements, installed an inlet and some asphalt curbing. To try to control the erosion and keep the water going where we want it to go. We will be installing another inlet down near the quarry entrance and doing a pipe crossing there and some swell work on the farmer side. So that will be hopefully sometime next week. Did a lot of repairs and repainted the Jacob Wright barn. So that project came out really well. It's good.
Looks fantastic if anybody has been by it.
Thank you. Just finished up repairing the cracks on the hockey rink. We had a significant cracking issue and we had 1 inch wide cracks that were 6 inches deep. So, yeah. So we milled out all the cracks, over like 1,500 feet of cracks. It's surprising how many cracks were on that hockey rink. Filled what was left of the cracks with hot core mastic and then put a material, it's called Petrotac. So it's an asphalt embedded fabric to hopefully bridge the cracks so that they don't reflect through. So then this is all the preparation of doing the court resurfacing. Given the issues that we experienced with the basketball court, where the plan is just to do the base court resurfacing on the hockey rink for this year, see what happens with those cracks, make sure that they don't come back again before we do the final surfacing. And then instead of doing the entire hockey rink, we're going to be doing finishing the basketball courts with the final surface. So they'll be consistent with what's out at Chuck Reed Park. And then we're preparing for whatever remnants of Hurricane Debbie brings us. So we're doing a lot of storm drain, inlet cleaning, and all those kind of things. So that's all that I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions for Doug? The only item left under there was the bridge bill
Oh,
application
sorry, yeah.
by Stephanie. I think?
Sorry, Stephanie.
That's okay,
No
okay.
problem. Good morning, everyone. I'm here this morning to talk about the municipal bridge retro reimbursement program. They recently opened it last week. We've been expecting it to be open, just didn't know when they were going to do it. But they opened the program last week. Applications are due in a month, September 9th. So the one bridge that's left within the township that meets the 20-foot criteria and previously placed on the Pennsylvania Capital Bridge Bill is Stover Road. One thing I do want to add is this round, they opened the bridges up to 8 foot and greater. However, they do require them to be on the bridge bill. And those bridges were not previously eligible to be added to the bridge bill. So moving forward, we will look at 8 foot and greater local bridges such as Landis Road, but for this round, it's not on the bridge bill. It would not, those 8 foot bridges would not be on there. So we're focused on the ones that were previously added, and that leaves Stover Road. The other criteria is it must have a poor condition rating, which is 4 or below in the inspection reports. Stover Road has a 4 rating for the substructure, so it is eligible in that regard. There's a lot of other things with Stover Road, such as the guide rail, things like that, that are also substandard. So in the quick time we've looked at it, it would be a full replacement project, whether it was replaced with a beam bridge or whether it could be replaced with a larger box culvert. That would be left to be determined. I think in this case, if we were to move forward with submitting an application, we would assume a beam bridge due to the cost of that. For those not familiar with the retro reimbursement program, it is through DVRPC. The bridges get selected and would have to be added to the transportation improvement plan, the TIP. But what happens is the township would front the cost for the project, including all of the construction, and then they would submit at the end of the project and receive up to 80% back for the cost of the project. So it's similar. Obviously, this is what we used for Store Road Bridge, Indian Creek Road Bridge, as well as Alderfer Road Bridge. So I am here this morning to I guess ask the question as to whether or not we would want to move forward with an application for the Stover Road Bridge, being the last one that is fits the 20-foot criteria. It is on the bridge bill and does meet the requirements for the program. This program, we don't know how often it is open. The last time it was open was actually for Alderfer Road Bridge and Indian Creek Road Bridge, which was back in 2018. So it's not one that comes around regularly or yearly. It's when they decide to open up the program. As I said, applications are due September 9th. They're fairly straightforward. They do need some information as relative to the project. So I know Doug and I are coordinating to get the latest inspection report, which should have been done in 2022 for Stover Road. So reviewing that, preparing a full project cost estimate. So that would be engineering, preliminary engineering, final design, construction, utilities, and right-of-way would have to be submitted. Just to give you some order of magnitudes, a recent beam bridge in around this size, we're talking, really a $3 million cost. If you recall, Alderfer was in the ended up in the 2.8 total project cost, and that was quite a long time ago at this point, 4 years ago. And it also included some significant roadway work as well. So that's what we're very high level order of magnitude was what we would be looking at for submitting. If a box culvert would work for this, and again, the hydraulics would have to be analyzed as part of the engineering. But if for comparison's sake, we have history on a recent 28-foot box culvert, which is about this span. The span is 27, about $2.5 million. And that was with a 50-foot roadway width. So obviously Stover Road is not a 50-foot roadway width. So it would be less than that, but just to give you an idea on the span for that box culvert. So, we're looking in that range, depending on what could be there. But we would recommend obviously pursuing the beam bridge option, just because if that's what's needed, you want to have that amount approved through the application process. Let's see. there would be letters of support, same steps that we go through for many of the applications that would be due. I don't believe there's a resolution required as part of this program. But the application, as I mentioned, is due September 9th, which leaves us just about a month to pull that information together. I don't know.
Stephanie,
Yes,
you're talking about the little bridge on Stover Road. There's no utilities. The road's about 18 feet wide for $2.5 to $3 million.
it depends on if it's a beam bridge or a box culvert. And again, Chris, I'm saying we have not done a detailed review of that particular bridge to give you that number. I'm giving you a comparison of some other projects that had similar openings, less road width. I don't know about the utilities yet. There is I'm gonna say, for a lack of a better word, a spring house of some sort near the one side of it that we would, again, we've got to bring it up to the criteria for today. So I'm on the conservative side when it comes to estimating these numbers. We would want, and that isn't just construction, that would be engineering, construction, utilities, right of way. So it's the whole package is what you would submit for that reimbursement. And the time, right? Escalation for the time of when they decide to pick an application, right? And award the projects and then go through the structural adequacy, if you recall. These require structural adequacy review, which means they do go to PennDOT, they go to their consultant, they get reviewed for structural adequacy. So it goes through a review process with the department.
So the hiccups we ran into with Alderfer Road was that we found out the floodplains, historical things. I'm thinking with location, these might be some of the things we'll see there too.
To get expensive.
So Stephanie, you need from us whether to go forward with the plans or what is.
So at this point, we would be just looking for a decision, I guess, as to move forward with the actual application process. Because at this point, all that's open is the application period. And that's submitting to DVRPC with some high level information on the bridge. You're fortunate, your bridge is on the bridge bill. There's going to be a lot of entities out there that their bridges aren't necessarily on the bridge bill right now, so they're not eligible. If it's on the bridge bill, that's the first and foremost step. It is there. We put it on there many years ago when we put the rest of the bridges on there for this purpose. We need to know if you would want to pursue the application, and pursuing the application would require us to prepare it along with a high level cost estimate and the documentation that goes along with it to submit by early September.
How old is that bridge, Steph? I know the Alderfer
1939. I believe the report is 1939.
The Alderfer bridge was over 80 years, didn't it?
If we're successful, we don't have to accept the money if the budget becomes something that's completely outrageous.
Correct. That is correct.
And Joe, if we were successful and we end up, let's go on the low side. I think you should do it for less than 2.5, but it's a $2 million bridge. That's what, $400,000 that we need to participate with. But that's engineering costs and other things that go into that, correct? So we're paying that over a period of time, all out of capital reserve, correct?
Right, but we was front
We'd have
$2
to do,
million.
like we did with the loan.
Yeah.
We'd probably float a loan like we did like at Alderfer for the construction portion of it. Correct. Right.
I believe I was on in different capacity, but all through, what was the impetus for that? Wasn't there some structural damage that was visible too? I'm not saying we're not, obviously for condition, we want to upgrade what we can, but we have many issues on this bridge, this road at all.
Well,
We just
Other than it's deteriorating.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a period.
Bridge, we also had some flooding because the water coming from the upstream side of the bridge was damming up, and that whole area was flooding up.
And what again, this could help us possibly with that grant too, correct, Stephanie? Having a history of flooding and stuff, any kind of issues, I think that's what we use with Alderfer to help us get that.
They're going to look specifically at the issues related to this particular location and this bridge. I mean, the good thing is obviously you've been through this program many times at this point, and you've been successful at implementing this. So I think that's a benefit, obviously, as DBRPC reviews the project applications. This one in particular, you know, it has the substructure is what is poor. So it's not like Indian Creek where it was the superstructure where the deck was replaced and you could do some upgrades to the substructure. This is going to be a full replacement because once the substructure is deteriorated enough, it only makes sense to give you a new bridge at that point. Whether, like I said, whether it's a box culvert, a large box culvert, or a beam bridge, that'll be determined. But you know, so that's it. That's where the cost is gonna come. If it has to be a beam bridge based on the opening, based on the hydraulics, all of that. But again, this is very early in that stage of determination. It's really, do we want to pursue moving forward with an application to at least see if it's successful in receiving the funds?
Doug, do we have flooding in that area?
We have flooding, a lot of it comes from the culvert that crosses under Stover Road just before you get to the bridge coming off the Main Street. That is undersized for the drainage area. But part of that issue is that I believe that the bridge can't handle the flow that's going under it, which elevates the stream level, which prevents the water, any water coming into that portion of the stream from getting there. So it's kind of a cumulative effect that the bridge creates the backup, which creates the flooding that goes over Stover Road from the small culvert. So, and there are a couple of properties right on that corner that we need to be careful of elevations because we've looked at that, replacing that culvert, and you know, the possibility is real that we could make conditions worse for those couple of properties if it's not done properly.
It's not like the other.
I think it's worth moving forward with the application at this point, investigating. I'd rather replace that bridge. I want 80% money on it, so.
Yeah, there's no commitment, you know.
Yeah.
Depend, you know, we don't have to commit that we're gonna complete it. Financially, I don't see why not. The Order for Road Bridge, I mean, it's award winning, literally won an award, but what else helped? I didn't see it's pedestrian crossing and flow as well.
Oh, and the flooding.
The flooding,
Yeah, flooding.
substantially better.
Good. Yep. Good. Doug, just on that issue, someone has been just downstream of the bridge building a dam. And it blew out in the last rainstorm. I think there's kids down there that have been enjoying the sediment that's in the creek and building a dam down there. Now, I see someone shaking his head.
Pretty sizable for
Yes, but half of it's gone now, but I don't know if that's something we want to, if that could create a problem with the heavier rains coming. Okay. Yeah, it was pretty substantial. They were busy. Yeah.
All right, Steph, you got clear
Okay.
direction there?
Yes, I do. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Steph.
Mhm.
To my report, last week we received notice that that we were awarded 2 Green Light Go grants for traffic signal improvements, full upgrades of the traffic signals at Main Street and Maple Avenue and Main Street and Huntsberger. So to a total of a little over $700,000. So I was surprised that we got both grants, and honestly for me, but it's a good thing. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that.
I'll be happy to see it at Huntsberger, like,
Yes.
it's always been a problem.
It's the piggyback.
Can't get the breakfast.
Thank you.
Exactly. Leaving breakfast.
Money well spent.
Good work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Yep.
All right, moving on. Chief Medwood.
Yes, sir. Just one update, back in December of describing a program, funding for license plate meters. 1363, hopefully coincide with the upgrades there. Just received information that those funds have channeled and scheduled to be voted on by the county commission.
Thanks.
Installation. Any updates with that upgrade? But certainly don't want to install prior to the upgrade. At the same time, sure. It's 36 change.
Thanks.
So that's all I got.
Thank you, Chief.
We won't be meeting again until school started. We'll still be participating in, and the buses will still be using their readers for violations.
Yeah, I haven't heard.
Good.
Very good. All right, any other questions for the chief? All right, moving right along. Building and zoning, Mr. Buki.
Mr. Chairman, so last month we issued 82 building permits, which ended up being the second highest of the year so far. Our average per month is up. Upcoming planning commission meeting, we're gonna be looking at Shahada. It's the preliminary final 6 dwelling unit development. 3 twins in the village of Little Rock. So we'll be looking at that next week. I'm sure everyone has noticed within the past several weeks, we've had a couple of land developments, actually, 3 land developments start. One would be Briarwood, which is located at the 931 Harleysville Pegasus Fort dwelling unit development down south of Village of Little Rock. No building permits for that yet. Also, we have Little Rock Village Homes. Both sides of Morris have started. The north side of Morris is basically for staging right now. And they're working pretty hard on the south side, which also borders Harleysville Pike. And that's what they're concentrating on, but they're working on both of them currently. Also, no building permits issued for that yet. And Jacobs Field, right next to High Point at Southford, next to the post office, extension is continuing, and we've issued the second building permit for that, or the permits for the second building. And your upcoming board supervisor meeting tomorrow, we'll be looking at 392 Oak Drive minor subdivision. That's the Meadow Court remaining lot there that was sized well enough to be subdivided in the future, and now here we are. So they're asking for a 2 lot line that received a recommendation from your planning commission as well. Upcoming zoning hearing board applications on Thursday. I previously brought to you 193 Kinsey Road, which is a zoning hearing board application for encroachment into the side yard for an accessory garage. We already knew about that one. The new one that is slated to be on the September zoning hearing board meeting would be on Hoffman Road. The applicant is Marmar Homes. And what they're proposing is a 6 lot, single family detached development there. And they would be required, I don't know if you guys have you guys should have my memo. They're required to ask for several variances, side yard, yard, lot sizes. What else? That's all I have.
What would the buy right be on that?
By right, I don't think they did a by right. Actually, I know they did do a by right, but by right would be 2 or 3.
This be on a future agenda for us to review if we want to send the solicitor, or is this the opportunity?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. So it's on the planning commission agenda for next week. So that's when the planning commission will be discussing it. You'll have an opportunity at the September.
Okay.
Well, then.
Planning.
I just want to make sure we didn't miss an opportunity.
No, thanks for the update.
Thank you.
Anything else for Mr. Buki? All right, moving right along, Mr. Jakowski, Township Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item on the manager's report is a review of the Board of Supervisors minutes from July 3rd. Anybody have any questions?
You're fine.
On the agenda. You have a new stuff here. Under new business on the agenda, resolution 2024-10 designating the township manager as official to execute documents for the transportation set aside Program Reimbursement Grant Agreement. Resolution 2024-11 Tuttle Subdivision. This is for the acceptance of the Crespin Road right of way. Resolution 2024-12 392 Oak Drive preliminary / final land development approval. That's the speaking was just speaking of the 2-lot subdivision. D, motion to accept bid award to Wilson of Wallingford for the Montgomery County Consortium 2024 #2 heating oil bid. Ordinance 2024-04 municipal waste collection and recycling amendment 95. This is for authorization to advertise. This is part of the township's agreement with the Northern Montgomery County Recycling Commission. And ordinance 2024-05 establishing volunteer service credit tax credit program. This is for firefighter volunteer firefighters. Receive a credit for property taxes or income tax. And that's authorization to advertise.
Essentially, it's watching it also for other emergency personnel.
It is. Quickly, the financial updates for the quarter to date. Township revenues at 72.4%. $6,255,953 versus 69% for 2023. Expenditures are at 61.4%, 6.508957 versus 59% for 2023. And I do just want to make one other quick announcement. Good news regarding our ability to raise millage for ambulance service as part of the 2024-25 state budget. Legislation was attached, which would allow townships in Bucks, Delaware, and Montgomery counties to increase the fire tax up to 10 mils and the ambulance tax up to 5 mils without the need for a referendum. So that will help out with our budgeting process next year.
Yes, it will. Excellent.
And the final thing on the agenda, thank you to our local.
Pass word along.
Big rep.
No, that was just a legacy problem in the code that needed to be corrected with what we're dealing with. It's just an emergency. Sure, yeah, it really was. So that's very good.
Dave Smith from Harleysville Materials requested to be and come speak before the board.
Good morning, Dave.
Good morning. Previously, on separate occasions, we've had multiple conversations about the wrap up of the quarry.
Can I just interrupt you? Please interrupt her. Introduce your other guests with you if you will.
I found Judge Sankis, a friend of ours that has worked with us and coordinating a lot of our public efforts, things along those lines, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. Then Randy Wolf, resident of Parks.
Stover Road resident, I believe. So you were interested in that bridge.
I did look at it, we talked about it again, just to make sure.
That's the believe, right?
So we had previously put forth some information as it pertains to quarry, like you guys some data to follow. So we're working on the current and final lifespan of the quarry as we see it today. The current situation is clearly that a couple things. One, we've incurred some deposits that were consistent with what was originally thought to be there. And availability of different types of aggregate, different colors of aggregate as we serve different markets. I think it warrants saying that we did a study and the average cost of a home in Lower Southern Township would go up by about 7.25% in the absence of the quarry. A lot of people find that very hard to believe, but there's aggregate 56% of gross domestic product, and there's a lot of it you build a house and or maintain it. What happens is when a quarry goes away, not only do you have to go further, there's a big environmental impact on doing that with the aggregates that you need, but the local quarries candidly get the raise their price. It's pretty simple. It's a commodity. So what we put together here is, we put together for you what the current life of the quarry is. See, the current life of the quarry takes us out to 2054. We're proposing a situation that allows us to mine on certain portions of the property owned by the quarry, not previously included in our plan. We preliminary had our conversations with DEP. DEP is perfectly fine with the plan, but we're going to do this in harmony with the township. We're not previous owners of 15 years ago that do things contrary to the township. We try to work with the local community. Currently, our plan to fill the quarry in will have to be paused should we continue under the current plan, because the fact of the matter is aggregates that were previously slated to be abandoned and covered will have to be extracted as a result of the formations to the southeast not being consistent with what we thought they were. You know, when it comes to mining, you go out, you do probes, you do holes, you do testing. You put 14 holes in the ground to cover 10 acres and you think you got it figured out. It's an interesting formation over there where we have multiple fault lines come together almost spot. So color changes, quality changes, things along those lines. Fortunately for us, the quality hasn't gone down, but the color is not consistent with what the original findings were. So it's having an impact on the current plan. So our proposed plan is, even though we cover a bigger area in the proposed plan, has us done by 2045. We think it's actually quite a bit faster than that, but we're pretty big on not overcommitting and underperforming as it pertains to this. We actually think that we're truly out of there in the new plan, somewhere in the range of around 2035, 2036. Which you can see is a dramatic difference. So what is forecastable is how long we'll be there under the current plan, because there will most definitely be what I would say a pause or a dramatic slowing in the filling of the quarry. Our quarry is being filled from the narrow side to the wide side. So because of that, it more rapidly encroaches on the currently mined area. Perfect world would be going in the opposite direction, but that's not been the evolution of the quarry, and that other side wasn't his friend. So we put forward that plan. We're asking that the settlement agreement be reopened, and via the settlement agreement, we utilize that to approve this so that we can move forward with the DEP planning to keep the quarry moving in a productive manner and candidly wrapped up sooner than later. I brought copies of the proposed mine plan. See that? Absolutely. We'll do whatever you guys do.
Okay, just in layman's terms, if you continue on the path you're on with what is approved, you need to go, my understanding, you need to go deeper in the existing area. Thus, because you're going deeper, you can't continue to fill because of the slopes and the safety issues of the quarry. If you, under your proposed plan that you're requesting permission from us, you would not go any deeper than what the quarry currently is, but you would expand towards Indian Creek Road. Correct?
Towards Indian Creek Road, correct. So,
and the challenge from the standpoint of the township is there is an approved settlement agreement and zoning approval for the quarry where it currently exists. So any change to recognizing DEP has jurisdiction on the ability to quarry, we have jurisdiction on land use. Your discussion with the township is a land use discussion about whether or not you can quarry outside of the approved limits of the settlement agreement that we currently have, which affects both the settlement agreement and current zoning.
right. So ironically, as it pertains to quarries, natural resources, minerals, especially with the things that are about at the federal government level now, local zoning matters, but only in certain aspects. The zoning does not need to be changed here from the current residential zoning. The actual quarry as it sits, the entire quarry is zoned residential. Right. Albeit though I do know that there's various levels of residential, but from the DEP standpoint and the federal government standpoint, that doesn't matter to them, if you follow what I'm saying. Obviously, it matters here. The comments that you make about the depth of the quarry are accurate. We currently have mined the quarry on average to the floor, what I would call somewhere around elevation 70. And if you'll forgive me, as you guys know, we have multiple quarries and elevations. I'm giving you approximate, but I can get you close. This quarry can be mined to a negative 180. If I'm wrong, it's 170, but a negative 180. And as you stated, that's the reason we would need to pause or dramatically slow the incoming fill, which will ultimately bring us back to grade. The reason that we see a real benefit beyond the financial benefits of having a quarry in the community is the reality of it is the impact on residents. Now, mind you, we've made acquisition of the lion's share of the properties surrounding the quarry, not all of them. We have and will continue to generously offer neighbors compensation if they would sell us the properties, but that's not why we're here. One of the reasons we want to get away from going deeper to get the materials that we anticipated that aren't there in the lateral movement is as we go deeper, the impact on wells and the vibration from the shock, from the blast go up. Now, historically, the blast at Harleysville Quarry tend to run somewhere between 10 and 40% of their maximum limit. I'm sure you still, as you're aware, get phone calls, as we do. Okay. What we don't want to do is create an environment where, even though we would be well within our rights, where we start knocking up against the 90%, 95% on a regular basis. We'll have one from time to time, and we call it anomalies because there's a fault line. We may catch one now and then. We'll get a random 80%, and then the next shot 10 feet away will be at 40% again. But by and large, we average between 10 and 40% of our maximum limits. As we go deeper, that will cease to be the case. As we go deeper, that impact is more. And as we go deeper, the impact on wells and things along those lines are a bigger deal. Now, obviously, as a quarry, we've always done the right thing for people. If there's been any well impact, and candidly, I think we've been over generous as it pertains to some of that. So, but the reality of that is we see much less of an impact on the local community by moving laterally on quarries, on land owned by the quarry. It changes no footprint to the road. It changes no sight line to the road. The boundaries of the homes that we own on Indian Creek Road are staying. We're not seeking different egress in through Indian Creek Road across from Sturgis, or any of those types of things. We continue to reclaim the area along Ross Mill Road, which is what we call a pre-act high wall, which was mined inappropriately back in the 40s to have large shear walls. And we continue to reclaim that and make that a better situation over there along the road. And we continue obviously to battle with ongoing drainage issues over there, but that's where we are. We feel as though the plan is less of an impact on the community, and candidly, it gets us out of here somewhere between 20 and 25 years sooner. And see, it will not be financially or commercially reasonable to go any further. Making big rocks into little rocks makes money, but it doesn't make enough money to start going down and replacing roads and, taking down, large scale houses, things along those lines. There are in this plan a couple of the older cottages, which are very closely approaching their useful life anyway, that would be practical to go away. But as you can see, as you look at the homes on Indian Creek, they are quite different in nature, and it would not be feasible at this time to go in that direction. The houses that are shaded and the properties that are shaded are either owned by the quarry or have releases, deeded releases in allowing us activity in that area, including those across the street on Ross Mill Road. That which we used to formally call the meat packing plant when we first moved here. I believe it's changed hands since then, but that's that property is deed, has a deed restriction on it.
It may be beneficial if you explain the arcs, so they understand.
Yeah, so if you see these arcs on the frame, you see these arcs here. these arcs are the limitations from the home. As you can see, the arcs don't exist on the homes that we own, because that being the case, we're allowed closer to the property. This arc has been put in here and obviously references it in the event that you were to own that, that would be the line, but without that stuff. Same with this arc here. See, that's a non-property.
And those arcs are, determined by the DEP.
Yes.
Of our mining limits.
Yeah.
Not our desire,
Arcs go from the heated, lived in dwelling, not a tool shed or a pool or something of that nature. The properties you see that are on the other side of the stream, they're the lands that were in the last. I've asked whether or not it's logical to continue to be in there, but they're the properties in the last rendition of this that we committed to the township. So even though they're shaded, they're not our property on the side. They're the lands that we turned over to the township previously. As far as the reclamation fill site, if you see over here on the green, on what would be the southwest corner, that's where the reclamation fill. You see it's moving from the narrow side to the wide side. So as you're doing your extraction over here on the wide side, you know, for every ton of dirt you're bringing out, you have 3 tons of stone to come out. So that ratio of in and out. The majority of our trucks come in full and leave full, which is great. Reduces traffic. Yeah, things along those lines and the overall impact. That'll change. So when you look at that, our overall truck traffic won't go down, our truck traffic will go up, because instead of coming in full and leaving full, they'll come in separate.
But Dave, I haven't been on the board through all of the iterations of ownership on this, but I know some of the history from previous ones. We've obviously arrived at settlement agreements because of problems in the past. And then settlement agreement always needs to get changed because of something changes. 2 questions I would have. First of all, you know, how do we, the bar chart's nice. I trust that you're all honorable people, but how do we know that that's the case? What secures that from our standpoint to understand that one decision will have that dramatic effect on the operation of the quarry down the road? And the second question would be, would we go down this path? Say you are successful in acquiring the lot that's identified as 11 on the property and lot 35. That would then give you a substantial amount of ground that you would own from where the current mining activity is out to Indian Creek Road, that we would be back having the same conversation again. And that's your business. That's what you do. You know, and I respect that we need quarries and I respect that we need the aggregate that comes out of it. Obviously, I'm in the construction business, people know, but this is the land use side from our standpoint. So what are your thoughts on those 2 comments?
No, they're both really good questions. Anything can be written into the settlement agreement as far as, you know, end date, things along those lines. That can be put in there. What would be interesting if we got 11? Sure, I mean, been trying to buy 11 for 15 years now. That's conversations.
It's an obvious.
They're not really pleasant conversations. You know, I guess I'd say this way. I bought land for my family, as many people around here have done, farmers, communities, things along those lines. I don't know what they're going to do with that land. I'll probably be dead and gone before that happens. I believe that the reality of it is that a decision should be made about that. I would tell you it's extremely unlikely that would be the case, because I think that value in this property is probably not going to continue past about 15 years from now being mining. It's changing greatly, and as you know, that we've acquired a mine and we're in the process of acquiring another one outside this community as a preparation for our mining to phase out of this. I would question whether or not it's really appropriate for this board to decide what happens with lot 11 35 years from now. A whole lot could change. And the reality of it is, if my grandkids showed up here and had a great idea for lot 11 and I was able to acquire it, I would say that at that time, that decision should be made on the merit of the request. I don't know that realistically, even I am here and prepared to, who knows what that might be? There could be a national shortage of aggregate and have a traumatic impact on this community, positive or negative, and you guys might want it there. Why would you want to do something restrictive today to prevent that? I'm definitely not asking for something. I have zero reason to believe that land will ever be acquired for a multitude of reasons, including previous farm preservation and things along those lines that make it nearly impossible, and if possible, not really financially motivated. My acquisition thoughts process for that area right now would be, if there was a miracle, and I don't think there would be, and we acquired it, I would probably strictly want to use that corner for egress, and that would be saved for something that would be the next life of that land, which is not acquired. So, but that's my thought process here. I don't see that being, commercially reasonable at this point, and I think that's a question that probably goes not only well past my career, but probably past my time on this earth. So,
But the question is coming down to the proposed bar chart puts the quarry mining operations in about the mining aspect of it in about a decade. But and then the reclamation goes another, decade beyond that on that. Whereas, obviously the 2054 date is a significantly longer period of time, but it's, another 10 years, 9 years. Yeah, depending on where you're on. So that, that's the judgment you're asking us to make is
it's twofold.
opening up a deal to save us 9 years.
Well, I think it's twofold. I think it's opening up a deal to save it 9 years. I think it's also way less impact on the community. The new way in which we've discovered we prefer to mine this place versus the old way. I think that's probably bigger. Like, again, that comes back to the decisions of something that happens 9 years, that impacts you 9 years, 10 or 20 years from now. I think the day-to-day impact of the new plan is considerably better than the current. And I think that probably carries more water in the contemplation of the deal than the time. Perfectly honest with you. The lesser impact and probability of impact on wells and lesser impact on vibrations and things along those lines, secondary to firing shots. I think that makes a big difference. I will also say, in the new plan, we're being extremely conservative in when will be done. We're planning on there potentially being a rapid, aggressive pullback in everything in this potential economy. If that's not the case, and I sure hope it's not the case, the reality of that is I think that time of extraction still is considerably less than a decade. But I don't want to stand here and give numbers that I can't live up to.
Mr. Smith, first, thank you for coming. I really appreciate meeting you here. I know we've had discussions, but it's easier when we can ask questions as well. So thank you for that. My questions would be, first, without our solicitor, I don't feel like I'm gonna make a decision at this moment, but again, I appreciate this information to consider. And the hop on what Chris was saying, we were kind of discussing with 11 there, you answered that well, I think, whether you think you're gonna go there. The same situation, would that occur possibly for the other properties on Indian Creek? Currently there are houses, but do you foresee, hey, it's going well, let's keep going? Is that something that could be in the future? Again, timely?
So it's a ratio of what does a ton of stone yield versus what does that house worth? And the reality of it is, in this plan, there's 2 800 square foot cottages that are going to be torn down that soon are going to need to be torn down regardless. So that's a big different metric versus, this house out front here that we own is a 3,400 square foot modern home in great shape with a detached garage. And then the one next door is in real good shape. I can promise you that. So It's probably not financially feasible to go into that direction. There was at one point where we looked at it, in fact, and talked about, as a result of prior flooding issues and things along down there several years ago when we were flooded out. We did a study to look at what would it look like to put the entrance where the two homes that we own, lot 36 and 37, and put an entrance in across from Sturgis to get the entrance, up higher in elevation and fill this entrance in. And financially, it was not feasible. And that's changed for the worse, as you know. But I think when we looked at those homes on Indian Creek and the valuations and the impact, that's not feasible, wasn't feasible then, and it's definitely not feasible now. 7 years ago, you know what real estate values were and rental rates were in the area and things along those lines. So it's threefold worse than it was then. So I think it's not really financially practical. And I think candidly, it would be a heavy lift, period, just to get the approvals. Really heavy lift. One that I don't know that I would ask.
No, fair enough. And on that line then too, and I'm sure it would be discussed, but it has to be said, there would be some kind of berm, like some kind of covering from the road as well, like maybe some kind of trees, anything.
So from an elevation standpoint, you cannot from the road see in the quarry. From any aspect, you can see sight lines over it, things along those lines. In previous efforts, we were asked to put berms up and then we were asked to take them back down. Because people had concerns about their views, sight lines. There's nobody over there that has a view in a home except for the ones that we own. And as you could imagine, our tenants not in a position to complain about the view. They know what they get when they move in. And we're very reasonable about that process, and we discount their rent accordingly, consistent with that. But these properties here to the northwest of us, 35, that property does not have a view because it sits down the hill. This property, 38, that view is restricted because of the other properties. So from the practicality of a berm standpoint, if there's places berms, we would benefit from berms, yes, but we don't always like to compare to berms just because of the maintenance of them. Sometimes, quite frankly, they're dangerous and very hard to maintain. The property is fully fenced in at this point, and these activities that are proposed are within the fence where it is right now. Not to say we might not move a fence because of wanting to be able to mow on both sides of it after this, things along those lines, but berms are definitely an option if and when practical, I should say. So there's some berms put up previously that created a dangerous situation for mowing them. And we'd like to avoid that.
Thank you. And again, from my fellow board, I don't feel comfortable making a decision now. I appreciate the information to consider. Honestly, Mr. Smith, I feel the blasts all the time. I live very close to there, and this is something, even though looks good on the chart, 6 to 9 years, it is a small window. I've talked to my neighbors, get some thoughts as well.
What I would suggest, if the other board members are comfortable with it, obviously, Dave, I don't think you were expecting us to say, oh, you were hoping we'd say hallelujah, let's move forward.
Well, I was hoping to win the lottery.
Yeah, that's probably. I think two things would be very helpful. You made a very nice presentation today, and I think there's things to talk about. You've got the bar chart that obviously identifies time, but then there's also the other pieces that maybe it can be better clearly described in a document about the depth and what that impact does for wells and what that impact does on vibrations, neighbors, if they're going deeper for mining, just so we have something. If people will see this, they'll come in and say, what's the quarry doing? We have something to help, further the public education on this topic. I would also say this is going to be an amendment to a stipulation agreement. The format for which this needs to take place is, what does that, not that we're going to accept what you send to us, but that's the first start, is what are you looking from us? And what would that look like so that our attorney can look at it, we can look at it. And I'm not saying this is going to move forward, but at least those are the documents we need to have some discussion on. I mean, would you guys be in agreement to receiving that from them?
Yeah, specifically as it relates to the existing agreement that's in.
Right. And then something that helps with public information, taking your presentation, they can watch it on video, but something that's, a 3-page, with the chart and the map and the understanding of what, the true impacts are on continuing on this path or altering path. And I'm sure altering it, you can write the benefits.
I think that's.
Well, selfishly, I'd like to see the quarry stay there as long as possible because I buy stone. But, you know, looking at the impact of the neighbors that are close by and the town itself, you know, I think it'd be advantageous to have it closed, you know, sooner, so.
And just being upfront, like I hadn't, you know, I don't have any intention to touch it at all. Honestly, prior to this conversation, I appreciate that. And again, I will read into it.
I think the biggest thing we need is we need our council to have permission, or your council to have permission to communicate with our council about potential amendments to the agreement. I think that realistically is the next step, but I obviously can't be done.
Well, I think in council, I think, as Mr. Canavan said, probably take the existing agreement and redline it, basically. And then-
And then, we can share it with our solicitor, and at that point, we can authorize them to have that discussion once we've seen that draft.
Very
This time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, with that, that would conclude Mr. Jakowski's portion of the agenda, I think.
It's done.
Is there a need for executive session this morning?
There is not.
All right, having no need, I motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved in second, all in favor, say aye. Those say nay. See everyone tomorrow night. Good morning.